say dog. And I go, oh, wrong, and I push a button. Well, the question was, would I keep pushing buttons? Because each time they missed, I'm supposed to shock them with a higher degree of electricity. The question really was, would I keep pushing that button all the way up until I thought they were dead? What we found is about 30 to 40% of people, as long as there was somebody in their ear saying, this is not your responsibility, this is part of the study, shock them even if it kills them, would go ahead and push the button, which sort of shocked the people that were doing the study. But you can't do that. The reason you can't do that is because I would end up in counseling, because at the end of it they would say, we really wanted to see if you were willing to kill somebody for $5, and you were. And then that would screw me up, and I would end up going into counseling to try to figure out why I was willing to kill somebody for $5. That type of experiment is no longer allowed. Chapter 2, whose culture is the hardest to see and understand? Usually when I teach this in class, I get China, Japan, Russia, different answers like that. Actually, the answer is your own. And the reason is because you don't see things around you as culture. You see them as normal. So, for example, if I had said staring in public, would you have listed that as something that is cultural? If I would have said list 10 things about our culture that makes us different than some other cultures, how many of you would have listed staring at somebody in public? In our culture, if you're looking at somebody that you don't know and they kind of look over at you, they out of the corner of their eye, they see something, they turn and look at you, we tend to look away. We don't just keep staring. That's uncomfortable. That's, ugh. Well, that's cultural. You'll go to some societies, you could get off the plane, and as you go walking through the airport, somebody will just stare at you. Even if you turn and look at them, they'll just keep staring at you. And you're thinking, what in the world is wrong? Are my shoes untied? Do I look funny? What's going on? Well, it's just cultural. They don't have a problem with staring at somebody and then realize that the other person realizes they're staring at them. They'll just keep staring. So that's cultural. But you don't think of that as cultural. You think of that as just normal. That's the way it is. So actually your own is the hardest to see and understand. Ethnocentrism, the belief that your way is the right way. Example pictures. 2 pictures that I'm going to talk about. One picture is of a bunch of Muslim young girls standing in a street corner, and they are covered from head to toe. All you can see is their eyes. And then a picture of some American girls at a beach sitting on a Jeep, and they're all in 2-piece bikinis. Well, when we look at those pictures in the Middle East, we look at those young women and go, well, that's kind of sad that they're in these countries where they're told by these men in this male-dominated society and everything that they have to dress this way and they can't show this and they can't do this, and how sad is it for them? The interesting thing, though, is a lot of the young women over there would look at the picture of the women here and go, oh, how sad that the young women in their country feel like they have to show off their bodies to attract the men's attention. They have to look a certain way to get men to like them or to get men to want them or to get men to look at them. We don't have to do that in our society. Isn't it sad that there's such sexual objects in their country that they end up having to wear things like that just to get people's attention? So sometimes when we look at people and judge them, sometimes they're looking right back at us and judging us in a very similar way. Folkways, norms that are not strictly enforced. Example there, passing gas at a restaurant. A folkway is something you wouldn't feel like you need to call the cops and go, hey, 2 guys down from me, guy passed gas, needs to be locked up for at least a day. You're not going to do that. You're going to be like, that's just not right. You shouldn't be doing that out loud in this nice restaurant. So a folkway, you feel like it shouldn't be done, but you don't feel like somebody should be arrested for it. Mores, example there, those are things you feel like they should be arrested for. Murder, rape, those stealing, those types of things. Those are examples of that. Taboo, that's something so far beyond even a more that you can't handle it. I mean, it gives you the shivers. An example there would be like, a parent gets caught raping their 2-year-old child. And you're like, oh. It goes beyond just being illegal. I mean, it's like you can't even think of something you could do to that person that's bad enough to punish them for what they did. That's a taboo. That's, eating human flesh. That's like, oh, you don't eat other people. It's something that just goes that far. Counterculture. When a small group's values and norms place it in opposition to the dominant culture. Example, Mormons form a belief on polygyny. Now everybody says, Mormons practice polygamy. In a sense they do, because polygamy is having more than one spouse. But if you look at it exactly, in some offshoots of Mormonism, Mormons as a whole now say that the true church of Mormons will say that it's not right to have multiple spouses. But really what they say is it's not right to have multiple wives. They practice multiple wives. Women can never have multiple husbands. Men can have multiple wives. And so if you specifically, they practice polygyny. They didn't practice polygamy where you could just have multiple spouses. They practiced a form of polygamy, and that form of polygamy is actually polygyny. Value contradictions have fueled many social movements. Example, women's movement in our society. Everybody's told they're equal. And women finally said, well, if we're all equal, why can't we vote? If we're all equal, why can't we own property? If we're all equal, why can't we go to college and get jobs like men do? And so those contradictions, it's like, okay, they tell us we're equal, but we can't do everything they do. Something's not right here. And so a contradiction is usually what fuels something like that. Cultural wars, battle between traditional norms versus emerging norms. Example there, a good one right now, gun control. It used to be whatever weapon you wanted to buy and have fun with, use, hunt, whatever, you could buy it. Now people are going, should we allow anybody to have any weapon that they want? Or should we put limitations on that? So gun control is a battle that we're having. And then new technology, an obvious one there would be the internet. I mean, internet is changing lives. 25 years ago when there was no internet, things were so different than they are today, when you can just go online and find out anything you want to, talk to anybody you want to, and really almost do anything you want to. So internet would be the example there.